Hang on. Here we go. All right. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to yet another edition of Mob Entertainment Group. And as you guys have seen by the change to the screen at the top, when you go to the channel, you see Gene's image. Gene is also very much part of this, and I very much appreciate it. Gene has been a loyal friend from day one, and he's been through a lot. And now we're both in a position where we're going to be doing a lot of outreach and trying to help the youth and help others. So today's topic has to do with sentencing guidelines and things like that. So I'm going to real quick, let's throw a few of your names on the screen just to say hello, and then we're going to pass it right over to Gene to get us going. Brittany, thank you for joining us. We hope you have an amazing weekend too. We got Chris Capello, good channel. Thank you for saying what's up to us. Dana, thank you. The lovely Dana from, she's a ghost tuber. She chases all those ghosts around,
Yes.
And we got Joe Root, thank you. And of course, we've got Deadly. Thank you, Deadly. You're one of those guys who's, been there. You've had our backs, mine and Gene. You see that sometimes people aren't so happy with us for no good reason at all. And you've been one of the guys who points out how good Gene and I are. And you better believe we appreciate your work, bro. Jam and Jet, thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning here. Good afternoon there. Edward Everett, thank you. And then, of course, David, put you up there. Hey, that strong arm, that must be for you, Gene, because you're buffer than I am,
Yes.
We got another fat, bald Italian. What's up? We've got Bananas in Chaos. He says, hi, people. Remember to eat your bananas. Okay.
Yeah,
They're
right.
good for you. They'll keep you in shape. And then we got, let's see, Michael Hensley. I'm Hootie and JC show old in this genre. Hensley, he's been around for a minute, man. He knows what time it is. Then we got real quick, Minnie. Thank you, Minnie 560. That's an adorable pup that you got in there. And so without further ado, like, share, subscribe, of course, ring the bell, and let's hand this to Gene. I want Gene to introduce the topic and lead the way on this one because he knows a lot about this topic. Hit it, bro. Hit it.
Yes. So basically, doing state time and federal time, a lot of people don't understand the difference. I get asked this all the time, and people are always saying, "Oh, if you have a state case or a federal case, they think like it's the same rules, the same numbers, the same guidelines. It's completely different." And today I want to break down for people that are listening and think that they're the same. They're definitely not. They're completely different. The government is extremely dangerous. Their guidelines are much different. Where you would get something in 2 years in the state, you can end up with 20 years in the feds. It's the RICO racketeering law, which is made because of the Italian Mafia. It was started on us and then fell down to the gang members, which more or less I'm trying to break it down for them because they're the ones that actually have to worry about it now. I just came out of MDC Brooklyn, and I can tell you these kids are getting an asshole full of time for basically crimes that in the state they would get 2-3 years. But because now they're making everything RICO racketeering in the country now for these gang members, they're not understanding the guidelines. And today I'll break down the guidelines and the charges, and they can understand how dangerous it is to actually commit crimes out there, and thinking that them selling a little piece of crack or them selling heroin or something little is just going to be a 6-month bid when it's not going to be. It's going to be a B1A, a B1B, which would hold a 5 to 40 guideline or even a 10 to life guideline, which means, yes, I know people are saying, how's that possible? Well, it's called 5 or more in a group, and it's called an organization. So now what happens is, let's say, for instance, I'll break it down like this. Let's say you have 5 kids that are in a drug ring. You don't even have to be in a gang. You're just all selling drugs, but you're using weapons to protect the drugs. That then becomes a RICO racketeering act. It doesn't have to be organized crime. It can be, but it don't have to be. It can be 5 or more. All they have to do is investigate you and prove that you are selling drugs and using weapons to protect the drugs. That then becomes what? I'll break it down for you. A minimum mandatory of 120 months. 10 years. You will start off as an 18, 19-year-old kid that thinks that they're selling little drugs in the corner with their little 4 friends in the Bronx or wherever you are. You get caught, maybe, I don't know, 3 direct sales of crack, maybe 60 grams, something in New York State that you get, I don't know, 6 months, a year. No, they're not doing that no more. What they're doing is they're trying to take it out. So how they're doing is letting the government take everything now. So when I was in MDC Brooklyn, I was with kids that basically had, I don't know, 100-gram sales, 60-gram sales, and they're coming back with 70 months, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, because what they're doing is making it racketeering now, RICO racketeering. And they're putting it and falling it into an organization now. So what they're doing is trying to clean up the streets by what? Giving you an asshole full of time. So, for instance, you have a B1C. A B1C will give you a 0 to 20 guideline. Now, I'm going to understand a 0 to 20 who don't understand that. A 0 to 20 means you get anywhere from 1 day to 20 years in prison, okay, with a recommendation a government would give you. So let's say, for instance, you have a prior felony of violence or a prior nonviolent. You would go in front of a judge. The federal is point systems. So you would have points for misdemeanor convictions, felony convictions, don't have a GED, no schooling. Certain things will give you more points. So you could go in front of a federal judge being sentenced to a 0 to 20 with a recommendation of 2 years. The federal judge, you understand, when you actually accept this agreement of 0 to 20, he can give you 30 years. He don't have no top. He has a bottom on a minimum mandatory, but he has no top. So if you cop out to a 0 to 20, he actually could give you 100 years. It's just up to the federal judge. Now, would he do that? No. They have guidelines that the prosecutor does recommend, but he does not have to follow them. A federal judge has all the power in the government. In the state, the prosecutor runs the courtroom. The judge is a yes man. In the feds, the judge has all the power, and at the end of the day, it's up to that federal judge. The prosecutor will give you a guideline that they're recommending on a 0 to 20. They'll say, Your Honor, we're recommending 50 to 72 months. Blah, 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 whatever they're going to say. The judge ultimately has the final say. So you could cop out to a little bull crap, 60 grams, and end up with 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, probation. It's up to the federal judge at the end of the day. But people are not understanding how serious this is. Now you step up to a B1B, which is a 5 to 40 guideline. Minimum 5. That means the judge federally is only capped. This is the only thing that could cap a federal judge is a minimum mandatory. That's it. The only thing that could cap a federal judge, nobody could break the minimum mandatory. There's only one way to break a minimum mandatory. I'll break it down to you. It's called a 5K or a safety eval. That's the only way a federal judge can go under the minimum mandatory. So if you have a 5 to 40 sentence with a recommendation of 18 years, 22 years, whatever it is, you know that you're getting something in that guideline because usually 9 out of 10 times, if you're not cooperating, the federal judge will go with the prosecutor. And if he doesn't, all he has to do is justify why. This is a federal judge, okay? They have all the power. Usually, they'll go with the guideline that the prosecutor recommended. If they decide not to, it could be more, which the prosecutor won't complain about that. But if he goes under the guideline, if he goes under the guideline, then the prosecutor can appeal it, but usually, you don't win, but you could just ask why, and he just has to justify why he went under the guideline. So I want everyone to understand this, how dangerous the federal government is. Now, when you start getting RICO racketeering with organized crime, 10 to life, minimum mandatories, 20 to life, racketeering murder, 30 to life, minimum mandatory 30 years. These are all crimes that they have minimum mandatories that a federal judge cannot go under, but they can give you a million years. I'll give you a perfect example so we could break down how dangerous a federal judge could be. I had a friend, his name is Little Dino. He was from the Colombo family, right? And he went to trial on 4 murders and conspiracy. He beats all the murders, okay? He's found not guilty on all the murders, and he blows to conspiracy, which is a 0 to 20 guideline. He received 50 years from the federal judge because he says, I listened to your case, and I do believe you committed those murders. So all the federal judge needs, so I hope you're listening to this, you just got to blow to the lowest count with a federal judge, and he can still sentence you off the top. Only in the government. In the state, they cannot do that. If you blow trial to a B felony in the state, he can only give you 5 to 25. If you blow trial to a C felony in the state, you can only get 3 to 7 years. With the government, you can blow to a lowest count that holds 2 years, and then you can still get 100 years because he can still give you the top if he wants. So I hope everyone understands how dangerous these RICO racketeering laws and these federal guidelines are. Okay? B1A is a minimum mandatory of 10 years to life. what could be a recommendation with your record to 22 to 25 years, 30 years. I just had a friend get 22 years for 2 pounds of meth. Okay, so like I said, RICO racketeering, guys, whoever's out there on the corner selling your drugs, doing your sports betting, your loan sharking, always remember these laws are very dangerous. And let me explain something to you. You will get a lot of time. The feds give 120 months out, like the state gives 2 years. And I know a lot of you kids think it's nothing, but when you get caught up in the system and you just keep becoming a revolving door, like myself, you know what I mean? I went from doing a little bids to spending a third of my life in prison. So at 39 years old, I'm trying to explain to younger youths coming up that think that this is not serious. I'm telling you now, the federal government is taking everything for a reason. They're trying to clean the streets up because there's too much out there, and they will give you an asshole full of time. Okay? These guidelines are nothing to play with. When you get caught up with the government, guys are happy when they get 20 years. I was with guys that says, oh, I did good. I got 20. I says, you did good? You got 20? That's good to you? And they says, yeah, in the federal government, that's good, man. And that goes to show you how dangerous and strict they are. And like I said, for Italians, we knew about it mostly because it was built for us. RICO racketeering and all this stuff was built for the Italians. It was used on the Commission case and the Gotti case. And that's when Mayor Giuliani, who's now getting used on himself, who actually did the law, now has it against him. It's an extremely dangerous law. You
Well,
could
real
actually
quick,
get
Gene, you're absolutely right. That's a very good point because we hear in today's world, a lot of groups will say we're being systematically targeted by the cops. Way before any of these other groups had that, Italians and then, of course, Irish dudes and others that worked with you guys, we were getting targeted first. And then not just the feds, too. Back in the day, the LAPD had what they called the gangster squad. They used to take guys like Gene or myself from the 1940s and literally take them into the hills where no one could see, and they would bat them around. And there was no civil rights, lawsuits against the cops in California. They did it in New York. They used to plant guns sometimes on you guys just to get a mandatory federal gun charge on you, things like that. And the feds clock money, by the way. There's a phrase, the police usually come up and clean up the mess after. The feds will clock you and the money that's going around as long as it takes. And they have all the resources too. Real quick, let me read this super chat and hand it back to Gene. Thank you for the $9.99. Another fat bald Italian. I want one of those sausage and peppers Gene will be making. Good luck, my man. But yeah, you're right, bro. Gene, they have all those resources to prosecute, and they got those resources and all the
think
time
about
in the world
this.
to watch you.
So if you have like for instance, let's say you have a gun charge in the state, right? And you get convicted on it, you get probation. I mean, you get some time, 2 years, and then you catch another gun charge. The feds can actually pick up that gun now and give you a minimum mandatory of 10 years. Now, if you have any kind of third gun charge, it's called a Career Arms Act in the feds, which is a minimum mandatory of 22 years alone, just for your third gun in the feds. That's it. Mandatory, 22 years. So think about that. You got caught with a gun your third time, the feds take it, you're doing 22 years in prison if they want. How crazy
and
is
there's no
that?
way to protect a drug operation without being willing to use one either. So you're really trapped no matter what.
That
If you
goes
just,
consecutive. That goes consecutive. If you have a gun protecting the drugs and you get caught with the gun, you will be sentenced on the drugs, which could be whatever they give you, and then the gun is automatically consecutive to whatever you get in the feds. It does not go together. They're fighting for it now in court. They cannot do it. So if you get caught with guns and drugs in the feds, the gun goes consecutive, which could be 60 months, whatever it is, and the drugs is consecutive. So you can end up with 20 years for being caught with drugs and guns in the feds. Where you in the state, you'd get 2, 3 years, 5 years maybe.
Yeah, and back in the day prior to the 3 strikes law in California and the other tough sentencing laws, there was the crack era crime wave, and they were doing the same types of federal task force that Gene's talking about them doing now. The feds eventually got sick and tired of the lawlessness across LA, New York, and all the big cities in Chicago, that they started setting up organized crime task forces as well as violent crime strike forces. And they would go after anybody that they felt as though was either a kingpin or someone who helps them out, whatever. And now they're doing it again, right, bro? They're doing it again.
Well, they have a thing in the feds. It's called I forgot the letters for it. When you have kingpin status in the feds, it's a minimum mandatory of 30 years. So you're going to cop out to 30 to life. So that's, if you have kingpin status in the feds, it's usually minimum mandatory 30 to natural life. And you'll be sentenced off that. And whatever they give you, they give you. That's the way that works. Feds is very simple. It's either you take these guidelines or you go to trial. There's no negotiating. You understand? It's either you're going to cop out to these guidelines.
No negotiating. Yes.
It's not like the state. So people understand. I'm really trying to help you out, guys. If you have a charge in the feds, there's no, okay, we'll make a plea agreement. The plea agreement is you take these guidelines or you go to trial. That's it. That's it. That's your federal deal. Or you cooperate. That's it. If you do not cooperate, you're going to take these guidelines, which could be 10 to life. You go in front of a judge and hope he doesn't slaughter you, or you go to trial, blow, and get natural life. If it's anything of RICO racketeering or anything with violence or racketeering, you're going to get 30 years plus. So to understand that when guys say, oh, I'm committing this crime, I'm going to go to state and get 2-3 years, the feds are taking everything in the 5 boroughs right now. I was just in MDC, and I was with a whole bunch of kids that belonged in Rikers Island. They shouldn't even belong in there. They're taking literally everything.
Yeah.
So these young kids that are coming at 18 years old are all getting 10 pieces, 15 pieces, where they would be in the state getting nothing, 2 years, 3 years. Now they're getting a ton of time. I mean, literally, I was with young kids with shooting at people, not even hitting them, getting racketeering shootings, 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, not even hitting anybody, just shooting the gun. It's called disbursement of a firearm and a crime of violence. It's literally a 10 to minimum mandatory life sentence. Think about that. It's insane. The laws are actually insane, to be honest with you. I don't even think it's right. But I understand they're trying to clean the streets up, but sometimes a kid at 18, I don't think deserves to get 10 to 15 years for a mistake. If if you kill somebody, it's one thing, but if it's not a murder or something that serious, I don't think a kid at 18 should be getting 10 to 15 years for shooting, a gun or something like that. I think that's just a little outrageous. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
even the drug
laws. It throws away their life, and they're just going to come back out and do more. And one of our friends, Ori Spotto, interviewed Freeway Rick Ross. We both know who he is, and I'm friends with one of Rick Ross's right-hand guys that operated in my region. He was never even convicted of doing anything with weapons back in the day, and they gave him 10 plus mandatory just for being involved with Freeway Rick's coke operation.
The old crack law was vicious. Bill Clinton actually changed that because the old crack law was so vicious. Guys were getting natural life for like an ounce. You know what I mean?
5 grams, and it was a mandatory 5, and then it went up from there.
They had to change that a little bit, but the government really didn't change that much. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I was good friends with the Flores twins. I don't know if everyone knows who they are.
Flores brothers.
Yeah, 50 Cent did a documentary on them. I was locked up with Margarita Flores. I was with them for about 3 years. And they were moving about, 2,000 kilos a month for El Chapo. And I could tell you that when they were locked up, if they didn't cooperate, they would have been serving, triple life sentences. You know what I mean? And they never killed a fly. They never killed a cockroach. You know what I mean? But in the feds, they were going to be either get absolutely natural life in prison. They end up getting 14 years, which I still think is a lot for bringing in El Chapo. You know what I mean? And giving the government 120 million, and they weren't happy with it. They still gave him 14 years. But I mean, he brought in El Chapo. I felt like he should have got time served. But the Chicago didn't like that, and Chicago didn't like them very much. But I mean, they were looking at natural life, and these guys never been in a fist fight in their life. They never heard a fly. You know what I mean? So that goes to show you how serious they are with the drugs in the feds.
Yeah, that's right. There was once the Diaz brothers when they were involved, but then this one dude said, "Fuck the Diaz brothers. We'll roll over those cockroaches." Well, the Diaz brothers never made it to prison, I don't think. No. But Jammin' Jet says that his uncle was arrested with Gotti, and then he said his uncle went under the radar until he was wiretapped. Jammin', if you feel like it, you can write your uncle's name. If not, we certainly understand. But it's basically, bro, you do a few deals, or you collect just a few gambling payoffs, and they consider that a continuing criminal enterprise, right?
Absolutely. And see, like, for instance, let's say you do sports betting, right? You could do it by yourself and get, probation, maybe a fine. Once you do it with an organization, it becomes a racketeering, and it becomes 60 months, 80 months in jail, depending on, your record and everything. My co-defendant at one time, Jackie, he got 8 years for sports betting. And that's all he did, nonviolent. They gave him 8 years because of the RICO racketeering law. which is designed to, you'll have a guy with a construction fraud that falls under RICO racketeering, and they'll get more times than a guy that shot somebody because it fell under the RICO Act. You know what I mean? That's how dangerous those laws are. You know what I mean? So RICO racketeering, like I said, I'm explaining both sides, drugs and racketeering. When you're in the feds, always know one thing, okay? They are more strict with drugs and racketeering than actual murder. If you kill somebody and you have a federal case and it's not racketeering or something, you could get a 20-year cop out. If you do it on anything on the organized crime, RICO racketeering, or drug conspiracy, you will get natural life in prison, okay? Where in the state, it's the opposite. The state, you will get, not too much time for drugs, and the violence is a little more strict, but the feds are absolutely brutal when it comes to drugs and racketeering. You are done. Your lights are putting out. They're going to give you 3 options. Take these guidelines, cooperate, or go to trial. That's it. That's it. There's no negotiating. They don't want to hear nothing else. And they'll tell you to go fuck yourself and see you at trial or whatever it is. They don't care. Because they have a thing called he say, hearsay indictments. They don't even need wiretap. They could get you on ghost dope. I'll tell you ghost dope. People fall off the chair on ghost dope. Ghost dope is this. Let's say, for instance, I had a bunkie in Butner. He went and rented a car 8 times. Okay, it was proven that he rented a car 8 times, and he went to go pick up crystal meth, 2 pounds of crystal meth on the ride. When he was arrested, the car was in his wife's name, the rental, and they said, "How many times did you rent the car for him to go get the crystal meth?" She said 8 times. They never caught the crystal meth. They then charged him 8 times 2. They then charged him with 16 pounds of crystal meth and gave him 26 years. Okay, that's how sick it is. There's no proof of it, just saying that he got the meth on the one time. So now she said 8 times they did it. Okay, they took 8 and times it by 2, and he wore it. And he was given 26 years for that. I think that's insane. You know what I mean? That's called ghost dope.
Absolutely.
Where you're literally being charged for something that you never were caught with or seen with.
Gene, it can get even worse. M. Cali, who who used to do the show with Hootie and I, he was up in Humboldt, Mendocino. We call it the Emerald Triangle because of the pot growing region and all that, right? Well, there was an indictment for RICO here in my county. The FBI, IRS, DEA, all the locals working together, Highway Patrol, all that, right? And the guy that was originally the target never knew M. Cali, never shook hands with him. They didn't know who each other was. But the DEA, once they had their first phase of their operation, they got the main dude and they started going through his cell phone, right? And other phones. They started taking down the numbers. They made a second and third. And basically, he got charged with a RICO conspiracy, which he had to plead guilty to for a case that never started with him or even any of the guys up there. They were just selling it to a guy that was 2 steps away from the original target. And all of a sudden, they're thrown into DEA's RICO, a RICO freaking, set up, and we're forced into a plea deal.
Well, I'll tell you even something crazy, and then after this, we'll take some questions. For this, let's say you're on the phone, right? And I hope these kids are listening. Even if let's say you're part of a group, and you're not even selling the drugs, and you're not even doing that. You're just a part of that organization. They know you're a member of the Bloods, let's just say. And you're on the phone with them, and you're saying, "Hey, man, I need 20 T-shirts." Now, your group is known for selling crack. They could literally turn that into 20 pieces of crack if they want. You understand that? The feds will go and charge you by saying 10 T-shirts, 15 TVs. If your group is known for whatever they're doing, they will turn that into the act that you are actually decoding and saying that as drugs. I know guys that went to jail for that and was not selling drugs, and it was actually turned into that. That's how dangerous they are. When it comes to the government, when they want you, they will get you. They're an unfundable machine. They have limited resources when they want you, and that's the way it works. So if anyone thinks that, "Oh, I'm doing good, I'm out here," I said the same thing. "Oh, they're not watching us." No, they were just watching us. That's the way it goes. They investigate crews for 5 years, 6 years. They'll let you bury yourself until they got you until you're under the water. So just so everyone listening, I wanted to break down a little bit so you get a little knowledge of knowing when you walk into the feds what you're going to be getting yourself into. It's not going to be little state crimes. You're going, "I'm getting 2 years, 3 years." No, you're going to be gone for a while. So I'm just letting you know. They give you 3 options. You're going to take these guidelines, you're going to cooperate, or you're going to go to trial. That's it. Other than that, we don't want nothing else to say. So.
Yeah. And you know what? they have that 98% conviction rating for a
99.
reason. 99
99.
now. They're getting better.
99.
Now it's up to 99. Wow.
99. They said beating the federal trials like walking into a grocery store, taking $1, getting a Mega Millions ticket, and hitting it. That's what they
Yeah,
say.
no doubt. And you know, the with their conviction rating, you know, you remember the late great Dennis Griffin, the true crime author that chatted with Hootie and I think you as well, and went over all of our paperwork and all that. You know, he had told me when I explained to them what I did to avoid wiretaps, he's all, you're in that small 2%. He's all, but even then, you really didn't come out as a winner, JC, because freaking you had to go through so much effort to get around all that. You didn't actually get to live a real life anyways.
Right.
You're so busy trying to avoid it. I mean, I'm like, you're right, bro. You're right, Dennis, because I was paranoid most of the time. So you're not, even if you get around them, which you won't in today's world with their tech, but even if you got around them the old school days, you're not living real life, and you're not going to enjoy the fruits of making money from gambling and weed or whatever else. You know what time it is. It's not a life, bro.
Right.
Let's see. Let's pull up a couple comments real quick here. Deadly. I'm not sure who had, maybe someone had blocked her before. After the show, I'll go through. I'll take care of that. But sometimes mods block people by mistake or whatever. But I'll definitely take a look at it. Thank you. This one here, Miss April. April, where were you at? You had a comment earlier that I wanted to show Gene. Where's it at? Let's scroll up for just a second. By the way, Jam and Jet Sky was Joe Zito, he said, from the Genovese family. But let's see. She said the CIA put rocks in America. There's some truth to that. However, that still doesn't absolve any of us. I've never sold rocks, neither has Gene. But any of us that get involved with the drug business, no matter who gets it here, it's still our choice whether we choose to sell or participate. We can still say, no, I'm not going to sell it. Whether that's true or not, probably is some truth to it with that whole thing. And other intel services also involve themselves with major trafficking. But again, Gene and I and everybody else, we all had a choice. We all could say no. And in the future, we are saying no. We are not participating in it. And we're saying yes to our children and yes to getting things better for our world. That's for sure. You know what time it is, Gene. Let's see here. We got one. Where's one at? Hey, here's a funny one. Irv Gotti beat all the odds.
Very lucky, right? Rare.
Hey, Irv Gotti did better than some of the other people with the same.
He did.
Oh man. Oh man, that's some funny stuff, you guys. So let's see here. This guy's name is Duck Fart, Alabama. It's one of those. I think those duck farts are those things that the hunters use that they make the sound or whatever. What's up, Gene? Always rooting for you, homie. Doing good, brother.
Thank you.
That's what we want. That's what we want to hear, bro. That's what we want to hear. So in getting back to the topic here, you've seen these situations where guys that were maybe they were bad guys at times or whatever, but the feds, they made them out to be way worse. And how was Vinny Asaro when it came to do you think that he deserved the racketeering conviction, all that stuff, the way they made him out to? These guys better than most.
Well, he was found. He actually defeated all the odds. He was found not guilty on everything, which they don't know how he won that because he was on wiretap admitting to things. But I mean, he beat it, which was unbelievable. But like I said, when it comes to organized crime, they will they're glory cases. You always got to remember that. So people get promoted off those cases out of New York. So they're gonna put a lot of effort and money into it. They're not there to lose. So when they come at you, the feds, and it's a mafia case, it's because it's going to be on TV, it's going to be publicized, and it's going to be the top prosecutors on you. It's going to be the best team, the best agents. They do their high priority in the 5 boroughs, especially. So when they do come and get you, there's a reason for it. That means they have you on thousands of hours of wiretaps, hundreds and hundreds of surveillance pitches, car taps, body taps, you name it, they got it. So they'll spend millions of dollars to get you indicted because why? If you look at most prosecutors that are anybody today in the Eastern and Southern District, it's all organized crime cases. You know what I mean? Most of them are judges or politicians, Congress, lawyers, mayors. They build their careers off organized crime. So these racketeering cases that they do, they take very seriously, and most of the time we are guilty. I mean, most of the time.
That's true.
Yeah, most of the time on these charges, we are committing loan sharking, gambling, all these things, hurting people, all the stuff that they're charging us with. So the racketeering law, that, like I said, they'll take 5, 6 years to come lock you up. Don't think they're not watching you. They're watching you. You know what I mean? They have assigned units to each family. They are watching you and areas. And if you slip up and you're committing these crimes, they will get you. The FBI will get you. If you're doing something out there, I always tell everybody this. If you're committing crimes, you're organized crime, your number will be punched. They're not going to let you just stay out there. It's going to come. They know who you are. The minute you start hanging out, your picture's on a wall. Like I said, they start at the bottom and work their way to the top. So they're unstoppable machines, and these racketeering laws are designed to either make you cooperate or spend the rest of your life in prison, or most of it.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, of knowing everybody, here's a fact, and you can vouch for this. Before John Gotti, emerged as the boss, right? They had, how it is. There was a squad in New York for every one of the fine families. There was the Gambino squad, etc. When Castellano got taken down, John Gotti didn't even know all of the members of the Gambino family. And the way that the
No.
FBI really learned a lot of them too, they knew more probably than John Gotti did, was John Gotti told all the captains that he did know to bring all their men in to introduce themselves so they could hold court and all that. And the FBI was filming all that. So John Gotti himself, he didn't even know all the members of his own family until he became boss. But I bet you the FBI knew.
Well, they know from they wait for funerals, they wait for weddings, the gatherings. That's why my old boss, Joe, no social clubs, no going to weddings, and no going to funeral parlors, because that's how they gathered together who was with who. So he would ban that. That's how they get their information. They watch funeral parlors, like I said, weddings, and so on, parties. They know that they all have to be there, and they see who's with what, and that's basically how they work. Unstoppable machine.
Yeah.
So you're wasting your time.
Yeah, they are a machine, and you're
like
going
I
to
said,
get caught.
when it comes to racketeering, they have unlimited resources. I hope everybody understands that. Which means that if they go to their people and say, "We need $50 million to get them," they will give you $50 million to get them, because they are high priority. So I hope everybody's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of folks, they think that, everybody must know everybody. Well, the truth is, not even John Gotti knew most of the members of his family. And unfortunately, the way he chose to get himself introduced made it where it was super easy for each for them to find out. Now, in your case, you had a really infamous boss from the Bonanos, one of the survivors of the Donnie Brasco case of all things. Tell the folks a little bit about your boss, your last one before he snitched and everything, and what you guys did to try to get around getting caught.
Well, yeah. Well, Joe Messina was very smart. I'd be honest with you. I mean, he did cooperate, but Joe was a very smart guy. I personally wasn't a fan of him because he was doing. I mean, he was killing a lot of people, taking their businesses and stuff like that, and doing a lot of messed up stuff. But he was very smart. He didn't allow, like I said, people to go have social clubs. He didn't allow a lot of things. He didn't want you weren't allowed to say his name. You could only touch your ear. You weren't allowed to say Joe Messina. You would have to say, "This guy wants to talk to you," and touch your ear. Legitimately, it's called him the ear. Very smart, reigning boss for 20 years. Only had one federal indictment. He did like 4 years when he was younger. So he knew how to move. He didn't want to be in the spotlight. At one time, he was the head of the five families, for a while.
Yeah. And he
So
survived Operation Donnie Brasco. A lot
he's
of
the one
you've
that
seen the movie.
He's the one that had them all killed in the basement. His brother-in-law
Yeah.
was there, Sal Vitale. Sure, he's one of the shooters. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was exactly. And also, if for those of you who don't know the story, once the indictments did come down, there was 100 plus Bonanno captains, soldiers, etc., convicted out of 200 or whatever it was. It was a huge case for them. Well, one of the guys that didn't end up in that courtroom was Joe Messina, and he
Yeah.
skipped town. He hid out during the trials, which allowed his lawyers to see what kind of evidence they would end up using against Joe when he did emerge again. And he got what, 8 years, I think, when the rest of these guys, lefty guns, he was put away. Freaking Black was just flat out. They took Black out. Sonny
Chopped
Black
his
was a
hands off.
stand up guy. Yeah.
They chopped his
Chopped his
hands off
hands
for
off.
shaking the hands of an agent. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
they dumped him. His body was found like, I think, a year into the trial, actually. He was technically on trial, listed just in absentia. And then, of course, the feds found his body, during the trial. They were going to clip Lefty, but he got arrested on his way to go, to his meeting to get clipped.
Well, remember,
Uh,
they didn't remember, you have the racketeering law wasn't really in effect right there. They were just going to start it. The first time they ever used the
yes.
racketeering law was the commission case. And remember, the only guy to ever come home on a commission case was Bruno, Sonny Red's son. He only got 20 years in that commission case, which everyone else got natural life. He's the only guy
Yeah.
that actually came home from that commission case, because that was they all got 50 years and better for blown trial.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's talking about Bruno and Delicato. He was the son of Sonny Red and Delicato. As you guys, saw in the movie, Sonny Red was in a rival faction as Sonny Black and all of his guys. And Bruno was one of the ones who didn't get hit. And then he, again, like you were saying earlier, a guy getting 20 years is in a RICO case is actually a relief because that's the
Relief.
low end
Yeah.
for them.
It's sad. You talk to these people and they're like, oh, I got 20. I'm happy. I says, I don't understand how you're happy with that. You did good, you said? 20 years is not good. That's horrible. But in the feds, that's good. You know what I mean? Guys with these drug cases, they're happy with 20 years. It's sick. It's really sick, to be honest with you. How people
Yeah.
could think like I did good with 20 years. I mean, you're gone for 17 years. That's not good. You know what I mean? That's horrible.
Hey, thank you, Sean. He said, "What's up, Gene? Good to see you on the streets. That's where you belong, bro. Wish you guys the
Thank you.
best." Thank you so much for the shout out, Sean. And I'll tell you, bro, the three strikes law in Cali, what was even worse with that was they didn't have to wait for the feds to get a RICO on someone. If they really wanted 25 to life, the FBI out here could just tell California authorities, we have a videotape of him committing 3 felonies. Go ahead and prosecute him. We want him off the streets now. We're not waiting to get him in a bigger one because we know we can send him to San Quentin for the next 25 years and we'll focus on the other ones ourselves. So,
Well, yeah. Also, and the feds don't run. The federal government don't run concurrent with nobody. So if you have a state case, always remember this: if you have a state case and a federal case, the state will run concurrent with the feds, but the feds want their time. So there's no running concurrent. So if you're in
yeah.
the if you're in the state, you're going to finish your state time and you're going to go to the feds and do the whole
And
time. They're
you'll
not
go,
running
yes,
concurrent with nobody.
you'll do your
Yes.
25 at the state, and
Yes.
then the feds will take you from the state prison right over to
Right.
one of theirs.
It's a whole new ball game, and I want everyone to understand that out there running around thinking it's nothing. When you get caught up in the government, it's over. They literally take your life right from you. So if you think you're making some money, like I thought I was, 30, at my high point, I was probably doing 30, 40,000 a month. My life is over at 30 years old, literally over, you know? So I
Yeah,
don't see, I try to
absolutely.
tell people there's really no point. It's really useless. I was better off going to be a postman, a mailman. You know what I mean?
At
It's like,
least with the mail if you were a mailman, you could have bad news being delivered, except it's not bad news delivered to you. It's
right.
being delivered to someone else's, mailbox. But yeah,
It was
uh,
so short lived, man. It's just it was fun while I did it, but when they come down on you, the state, I didn't see. I was getting locked up in the state. I didn't care. It was like not a lot of time. And then when the government got me, I heard these numbers. I just said, Oh my God. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Like Hootie said, he called them football numbers because the back of
Yeah,
the numbers on the jerseys.
it's horrible. Yeah, and then and people are telling me, "Oh, I got 20 years. I did good." I said, "You did good with 20 years. You're happy about that?" I said, "That's not good."
Yeah. He's like, well, I'm not happy, but I did do good. The other
Oh my
guy got
God.
40, 60, 100,
Right.
that kind of
Right.
thing.
Yes.
Real quick, let's tie this in with, you know, before we get going. One of the main reasons, in my opinion, why so many kids are doing these crimes and stuff is they see it in the media, they see it on, music videos and in the movies, and it's glamorized. They always show the parts where the guys are making money, right? And then at the
Right.
very end of the movie, they get arrested in that part, and then it's over. They don't show a lot of the bad side of it. And so one thing that you and I do and the others for these youngsters is we debunk the
Right.
nonsense that some of these movie folks and entertainment people put out there, making it
Oh,
think
they're
it's
coming after the
super
rappers
cool.
heavy right now. They have these drill rappers are all getting. I was with K Flock. K Flock's getting 50 years. He's a 20-year-old kid.
Mm,
He was a hot rapper doing songs with Cardi B. He was blowing up. He's in jail right now, looking at 50 years with 2 murders. 20 years old. He's done. And he was
yeah,
blowing up. He was making money. He had a couple $1 million. He's a young kid from the ghetto, happy, doing great music. Did a song with Cardi B. She's huge. And now he's gone. His life's over. 50 years at least. He's double murder. And he was shooting people on Instagram Live. On Instagram Live. How do you even beat that? You're on Instagram Live shooting somebody. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, this is not a game. This is not a video game, man. So, these kids don't understand. They
no,
watch this stuff, glorify it, and it's over. Their life's over.
absolutely. Let's see. Here's a question for you, and then we'll end the show with this from our friend Duck Fart. Gene, did you ever publish your version of the book? I remember you saying that the editor removed a lot of stuff that you wanted left in there. I would really like to read your version.
Yeah, my version is not published. Like I said, I'm taking the original version and I'm turning it into a TV show basically. So you'll get to see it there.
Absolutely. And by the way, another thing, you guys, that we're going to be moving into, for those of you who would like to pay a few extra bucks to have some private sessions on Zoom or wherever with Gene, myself, or John A. Light, Anthony, and some of our other friends, we're getting something set up where you can ask certain questions. However, just so you know, you're going to be signing a waiver saying that you're not sharing it elsewhere. You're not going to get to screen record it. But if
Right.
you want the unvarnished truth, because we don't want one reason why we've decided we're not going to be saying explicit stuff about our former crimes and all that is because it sort of sends a message to young people that we're trying to glamorize
Right.
ourselves, and that's not what that's not what we want to do. But we will
Right.
tell you, adults that want to pay you a few bucks, we will give you some insider stuff, but privately with that.
Listen, I'll leave you with this. Nobody wants to be in the federal system right now. Anyone that is in there right now and does see this, I mean, you do not want to be in there. The food is disgusting now. You only get 300 minutes a month. Well, I'll be honest with you. I want them to really know the pain. You only get 300 minutes a month. You can only use the phone maybe once a day. The violence is so high right now. They're absolutely killing each other in there. They're taking everything. It's like Rikers Island in there. People are getting a ton of time. You're going into the hole. They'll leave you in the hole for months. Feed you 3 times a day, horrible food. This is not a way to live. I mean, just know before you get caught up in this vicious cycle, it's really bad. I was just there for almost 8 months. It was just so horrible, and these kids are getting so much time at such a young age and living in such poor conditions in there. It's so bad, and they don't care. So before you get caught up in this, before you end up like me or with your life in probation and parole, your whole life in prison and can't leave the state, the country, being told what to do. You can't do anything. They own you. You can't even you can't if you owe them money, you put money in your account, they take it. It's just insane. You belong to the government once you get in that cycle. So anyone who's not caught up and you're in the street, get out of it. It's over. The streets are dead. There's nothing left for it. Take it
And
from
if
me.
you want to get involved with white collar crime like Sam Bankman Fried, you need to get out of that too, because Gene Borrello and guys like him aren't going to be there to lend you a helping hand for a few minutes.
That poor
Every
guy, yeah. That poor guy, he's gone forever. See a guy like that? He stole money. He's gonna get life in prison. This guy never been in a fist fight. He never been nothing wrong. He stole some money. They're gonna give him 100 years. So, like I said, you can't play with the government. And I hope everyone listened to me today, because I'm not spitting bullshit. I'm giving you facts, things I've been through, things I've seen. And I know the law very well. You do not want to get caught up in that system. I'm telling you. So with
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely. Hey, real quick, someone, you're more than welcome to choose to answer this or not, Gene, but Carmine S. asked why they, what happened to your cousin.
Why did they kill my cousin? My
Yeah,
cousin was killed because he was sent to kill Vito Guzzo. Vito Guzzo was shot 7 times. He survived and came back and killed my cousin. That's all. That's why.
yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Hey,
Retaliation. Yeah. All right.
retaliation, you guys. So,
My cousin
all
was
right.
just
Well, hey,
22
look,
years old,
Gene,
baby. Yeah.
add anything else you'd like to add in, your book promotion, whatever you want to add real quick before we get
Yeah,
rolling.
my book's all over Amazon. It's a bestseller. I do sell autographed copies myself. Everyone knows that. You can DM me and I send it out to you myself. All right. As of right now, my book, I'm working on it to become a TV show, and that's really it. All right.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, you guys, and stay tuned for more. We're going to be doing a lot more of these. As you can see, Gene is, on on the channel. We're going to be upgrading our stuff now that we're taking it serious and definitely want to move forward with things. I couldn't have asked for a better partner for this, and I'll tell you, Gene, I very much appreciate it. You and I had this. We've been chatting about this for a couple of years now, and it's great that the delays are finally over, and now we can get going with things. Thank you for your time here today, Gene, and we're going to be back this week, huh?
Take care, guys. All right.
All right, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and become a channel member, because very soon, once we have enough members, Gene and I will also be doing some members only stuff. I appreciate the super chat earlier. So does Gene. You know my policy. I always share super chats, cash apps with my hosts here, because he is definitely with me here. And we even share with our guests too. If we have a guest on and we get a few extra super chats,
Yeah.
we kick up. We share the love. That's what you do when you care for people. You share. So with that, please share our video. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the weekend here, and a good week coming up. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.